Welcome to another edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Sean Garrison, your host and editor of DadsDivorce.com. Today we are joined by Dana Lauer, who is a family law attorney in Cordell Cordell's Boston office. We will be talking with Dana about the Massachusetts Alimony Reform Act, which is a law that went into effect last year. Thank you for joining us today, Dana.
Hi, thank you.
To start with, Dana, can you tell us briefly about the changes that were initially made under the Alimony Reform Act and how they've kind of been received since its implementation?
Sure. Well, first of all, the purpose of alimony has not changed at all. The purpose of alimony is still to provide financially for an economically dependent spouse. So the big changes to the Alimony Reform Act are, first of all, the legislature went ahead and added some new forms of alimony. So there's general term alimony, but then now we also have reimbursement alimony, transitional alimony, and rehabilitative alimony. Reimbursement alimony is for the purpose of paying back a spouse who, for example, paid for your college education. Rehabilitative alimony is to prospectively pay for a spouse's education while maybe they stayed at home to take care of the kids. So those are new types of alimony, but general term alimony, the biggest changes allowed for termination of alimony payments and set up a schedule whereby judges were able to calculate both the duration and the amount of alimony in a manner that was more consistent across the board, less arbitrary.
Sure, and can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, why these changes were deemed as necessary by lawmakers? What were, I guess, sort of the biggest complaints about the previous system?
Well, the biggest complaints about the previous system is that people, usually men, were getting these alimony orders that varied in the amount and were infinite in duration. So now, based on how long you were married, maybe alimony won't be a permanent thing. If you're married for under 5 years, for example, you will never pay alimony for longer than 50% of the months you were married. In addition, the Alimony Reform Act allows alimony to be terminated when you reach full retirement age or the other party cohabitates in a relationship that's akin to a marriage without being married.
Sure, and since the law was passed, there have been a couple of decisions that were made regarding the termination of alimony upon retirement or cohabitation, based on whether the court order came on or before the ARA effective date. Can you tell me about those decisions and why they've kind of created some controversy in the state?
Yes. So when the Alimony Reform Act was passed, it was clear that those durational limits, the amount of time somebody could be forced to pay alimony, would be retroactive, meaning men could go in to terminate alimony based on the fact that they were only married for 2 years and should only therefore pay alimony for 1 year, just by way of example. What was unclear was whether cohabitation or reaching full retirement age could be retroactive if you were divorced prior to the act. And so a lot of attorneys, myself included, and a lot of judges read the statute as to say that if you reached full retirement age but were divorced before the Alimony Reform Act, you could go ahead and have your alimony terminated. The recent decisions by the higher courts, the courts of appeals in Massachusetts, say that the legislature didn't intend for that to be the case. So now, if you were divorced prior to 2012, when the Alimony Reform Act went into effect, if your ex-spouse is cohabitating or you have reached full retirement age, you cannot terminate under those provisions of the Reform Act.
Gotcha. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I do want to add that even though it seems difficult to work with at the time. There are still many reasons that men can have their alimony terminated, even if they were divorced prior to the Alimony Reform Act. A change of circumstances is always a reason to go ahead and have alimony terminated or modified. So even though I'm not sure whether the legislature intended for the courts of appeals to read the Reform Act the way that they have, there's still hope out there to have alimony terminated or reformed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dana. We really enjoyed having you here on Dad's Divorce Live.
You're welcome.
That was Dana Lauer, family law attorney in Cordell Cordell's Boston office. To read more about a range of issues regarding alimony and spousal maintenance, make sure to visit DadsDivorce.com. I'm Sean Garrison, and this will do it for another edition of Dad's Divorce Live.